is up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of the Rehinge Diaries podcast with your host, Ali Garza. So, as you can see from today's title, is going to be a very tough one. There's so many pop culture things that I wanted to talk about and make an episode about, but then I also realized it's been a while since I trauma dumped on you guys, and I really do want my podcast to be about me opening up about experiences and things that I've gone through, just in case if there's someone listening or even watching that they can relate to it and like sort of use that as their guidance, which I'm laughing only because it's like the blind leading the blind, but it's like if I survived it, then you can too. So I feel like it's not necessarily the blind leading the blind, but it's like I don't always make the best decisions. But yeah, the reason why I wanted to talk about this specific story in particular is because of the fact that it was the hardest thing that I've ever gone through. Like I went through so much shit that is unspeakable, and you guys will literally like accuse me of lying type of shit. But like this thing was the most traumatizing thing that I've ever gone through, and I decided, I really want to talk about it because who knows if someone's like listening or watching or come across this and they're having a bad day, or they might be in the position I was at the time of this story, and it could really help them and give them hope that they can get through whatever they're going through. And I don't know, like I just really wanted this episode today to just be serious. Literally all I'm wearing is a little bit of mascara, like a little bit of like bullshit on my brows. Like I wanted to be like just natural as I can be and just like stripped down, basically just vulnerable and just open up to you guys. So if you want to know more about the story, then keep on watching or listening. So this story takes place around 2019, which was the worst year of my life. Like I feel like for 2020, I feel like that was the year for a lot of people where they feel like it was one bullshit, like one thing on top of another. Like it was bullshit, 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 bullshit. Because I've seen everyone around me during 2020 obviously going through that. But for me, it was 2019. Like 2020 is when I feel like I finally started like being able to have a breath of fresh air. But like 2019, bitch, when I tell you it was the universe, God, whatever you believe in, having me by my fucking ponytail, dragging me like in the worst way possible. And they were just testing my threshold basically, and like my strength and what I can like overcome, because that year was the worst. So I remember everything started going downhill that year, which there was a lot of like bullshit in regards to my relationship with my mother. Like we were just like, that was the year where our relationship was at its worst, which eventually led me to moving out at a very young age. But it was just constant bickering, like constant, to the point where every time I would have an amazing day at work or an amazing workout at the gym, the moment I parked my car in front of my house, I would just start hysterically crying. So I'm like, I know it does not matter how good my day is going, it's going to be ruined because of my mother. Like she was just a miserable person projecting onto me constantly, and it was just, there was no such thing as a good, like a full on good day. So that's kind of where my mental state was at, was I was just of course over it, like just with my mother. And then literally, like I think a couple weeks before my birthday is June 29th. So this was the month of June is when everything really started hitting the fan. And it's when I had a really nasty, nasty car accident. And I was driving my mom's minivan or whatever. So like I didn't have my own like car. Like I was driving like her minivan that she lent to me so I could drive to get to whatever I need to go to, which I was grateful for that, don't get me wrong. But like I said, with the price that it came with, like it was always constantly cursing me out. Like I had to be, my curfew's at 12, but like at 9 she's blowing up my phone, calling me a prostitute, a whore in the street. Like it was just constant like back and forth with that fucking vehicle. So can you imagine the mental state of me just driving, like, braking at a red light, and a car doesn't brake in time, with speeding, it just fucking rear-ends the fuck out of my car. I would never forget that the fact that like me and my sister didn't talk for 2 months around that time. Like I said, I probably was a major bitch because my mental state was not good. Like me and my sister like got to a very nasty argument. I cannot even tell you what the argument is about. We still laugh about it. Like what were we even arguing about? Like I probably was just a bitch. But I will never forget that my sister was 30 minutes away from me. My mom was only 10 minutes away from me. My sister made it there within 10 minutes. Like, she sped, and I remember calling her because it was my first crazy car accident, and I was just like crying, like, I don't know what to do, I'm scared. And she literally got there within 10 minutes. So she was 30 minutes away from me. My mom was only 10 minutes away from me, and she made it there within an hour. And literally shamed the fuck out of me, saying, "This is all your fault, by the way." like she literally made it all about herself, being like, "Oh, well, you didn't tell me where you were at." I'm like, bitch, like, my car, like, the car just got fucking destroyed, my fucking back is hurting me, I had like a, like, it was just like, I'm like, that's all you care about? Like, you're making it about yourself? Like, it's just like crazy to me even thinking about it now. But yeah, that was that. So can you imagine, that was like everything in my life obviously getting worse, but then that was like a thing that my mom clung on to like hold it against me, like, you destroyed the car, like, you're an irresponsible driver. Meanwhile, I was like the full victim. Even the police report said it wasn't my fucking fault. But there was that. And then that's when July hits, and that's when it was my ex's birthday. And I don't want this story to be truly based on what my ex has done to me, because I don't want him to have the satisfaction to think that this is like an expose for him. No, like, whatever Taylor Swift said, where it's like, oh, if you don't want us, like, a song to be made about you, don't do shitty things. Like, for me, I'm just talking about my story, and hopefully it can help someone out there, and talking about my life experience. But if your shitty behavior correlates with it, that's not my problem. But I don't want anyone to think that, oh my god, she's exposing you, she made a whole episode exposing you. No, no, no. Like, I'm very much like, don't give a fuck anymore. But yeah, like, it's just, I can't talk about this without, like, because it plays such a huge role into the story. So it was my ex's birthday, July 22nd, I believe. And I did a whole like thing for his birthday. Like, I literally like snuck into his house, not really necessarily snuck in. Like, I asked for his mother's permission. His best friend gave me the key to the house to get in. And yeah, I asked them permission if I can go in his room and like decorate and just basically surprise him for his birthday. So I did that, rose petals, all of it. That's a whole story within itself, but I don't want to get a hold of myself. So, like, long story short, obviously, I bought a Plan B, because that was literally around the time where I was popping them like they were fucking Tic Tacs. So, keep that in the back of your mind. So, yeah, that was that. I was dressed in lingerie, did the whole shabam. Don't need to get into detail what else. Like, I'm pretty sure you could put two and two together what happened that night. But yeah, so that was that. And that's when around like August, September is when it actually happened. But August is when, after, like, shortly after his birthday, I know my period was supposed to come. And for some odd reason, I ended up getting it, but I was in so much fucking pain. Like, I was bleeding like there was no other. Like, put me in a pamper, like, at that point. Like, I remember going to the bathroom, and I'm like, I am literally like bleeding through all of my underwear, bleeding through the sheets. Like, what the fuck? And I'm in so much pain. It's literally clots too. Like, sorry for the TMI, but it was clots. And I'm like, what the fuck? And it's literally going on over a month. I'm like, why am I bleeding so much for so long? Like, I literally, like, what the fuck is going on? I had all these symptoms of a pregnancy, because I'm like, I felt nauseous. That's around the time where I worked at Sam's Club in a cafe, so obviously I'm around food. I literally, like, was like so nauseous the whole entire shift. I had to literally sleep with a trash can beside my bed, because I felt like I was going to throw up. I had no energy. I would literally sleep every single day. And that's when I just like remember like telling my ex, like, hey, like, I think I'm just gonna go to the gynecologist and like basically just like see what's going on. Like, maybe it's no big deal, because why would it be? I'm literally bleeding. But I just feel like shit. Like, it's the feeling, it's what's really bothering me. The bleeding, I'm like, it's kind of like crazy how I wasn't paying too much of attention of that. But I'm like, oh, I'm bleeding so much, like, that's not necessarily the concern. But like, the concern is, why do I feel like shit? Like, why do I feel so nauseous? Like, even my sister was like, your hips are so wide, like, you look different. And I remember just being like, okay, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Maybe it's the effects of the Plan B. Like, that's what I just assumed, because I was taking them so much. Like, the most I took was 3 in 1 week one time. Like, it was crazy. So it's like, that was that. I go to the gynecologist. That over, like, the place that I used to go to was already a fucking red flag, because I go in there and describing everything that I told you, you would think the first thing you would do is give me like make me take a pregnancy test, or like, whatever, like, test my urine. But I go in there, I'm telling her my symptoms, and she's like, oh, okay, well, the doctor's gonna examine you. But I'm like, examine me? Like, girl, I'm bleeding, like, what? And it was even so much more embarrassing in the fact that the my gynecologist at the time, she had like a student, and she was like, are you okay if she's like, like, basically shadows me, whatever. I'm like, I don't care, whatever. But like the fact that they really decided to go through with an actual exam, me telling them that I was bleeding and shit like that was crazy. But yeah, it was just so embarrassing because she's like, I literally can't see anything because they're trying to like, she's like talking her through looking in my like in my cooch, and I'm literally bleeding and she can't see anything. That's how much I was bleeding. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck, like, like it was just, that was so like traumatizing within itself. But yeah, I remember before I was gonna leave, because she's like, everything looks fine in a sense. I don't know why she was checking me for STDs or something like that. I'm like, girl, I was with the same man for Lord knows how long. We were together for years. That was just weird. But yeah, I'll never forget. She was like, oh, did we test your urine? Like, just in case to just knock that out. Because she's like, I think it's the Plan B. She's like, that's when she told me, you need to consider going on birth control because there's no way you were taking that much Plan B and shit like that. And I'm like, I don't want to go on birth control. She's like, literally, just try the NuvaRing, which that was the birth control I ended up eventually going on. She's like, just try that, and if you don't like it, then you can prove me wrong and not get on it. But I'm requesting if you can like just try that, and if you don't like it, then you can get off it, and that's your choice. You don't have to go on birth control. I'm like, okay, whatever. But she's like, let's first, before you even put on the birth control, let's like, test your urine and see if you're not pregnant. Because if you're bleeding this much, then you're definitely, I wouldn't assume that you're not. And then she even like side-eyed the person, like the nurse that like even like asked me all the million questions before I saw her. She's like, I don't understand why she didn't test your urine first. And I'm like, I know, that was really weird. So I go in there, like, pee in the cup, whatever. She dips the little like strip in there, and then she's like, oh, says negative, like really quick. And I'm like, oh, like for me it was like no big deal, because I'm like, okay, I figured that I wasn't pregnant because I'm bleeding and shit like that. Maybe I really do feel like shit because of the fact of the Plan Bs that I was taking, all of it in a short time frame. So that was that. I go home. I'll never forget, I go home and I'm literally like sitting with my brother. We're having a conversation and my phone rings and it's the, gynecologist. So I answer it. I'm right in front of my brother. So that was even more traumatizing. And I'm like, hey, what's up? She's like, hey, girly. She's like, hey, boo-boo. She's like, hey, diva. All like your tests came back positive, like you're pregnant. And I'm like, I remember I'm in front of my brother. I literally ran upstairs and just ran outside because I'm like, I need to have this conversation away from him before I start hysterically crying. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, what? Like, I start actually going off on her because I'm like, first of all, like, this is something that should have been like I should have known this information when I was still with you and shit like that. Like, why the fuck am I figuring out this shit now that I'm home and shit? She's like, I'm so sorry. Like, that the nurse, whatever, is gonna be held accountable because of the fact that like she dipped it in. I guess she didn't left it, like she did not leave it in for as long as you needed it to be, because the moment you left it, whatever, when we checked, it came back positive. And I'm like, what the fuck? How is this possible? She's like, I don't know. We would have to do more exams, like, and shit like that. So I need you to go get some blood work done so we can confirm that you're pregnant through your blood, whatever. Because false positives are possible, not like usual, like not like too common, but let's make sure, like, just to stay safe. So I literally got blood work done. Like, I went to like literally so many different like I even went to my like primary doctor, whatever, to get blood work done to confirm that I was pregnant. And unfortunately I was. Like, I'll literally insert like, because I even went home and took like the at-home test, and you can literally see the blood on the test that I was in fact pregnant. And I remember the first thing, me and my ex weren't even together for a full year yet. And I remember that was the first time he ever like heard me cry. He didn't see me cry at that time yet. But I remember I was like, I would make jokes with him. I'm like, oh, I'm pregnant. And he's like, I know you're actually like pregnant if you ever blow up my phone saying you need to talk to me. And that literally that day, I'm like, please, 911. Like, I'm literally like, answer their phone, please. Like, I'm not bullshitting. Like, call me back. And he called me back within like a minute. And I was hysterically crying. Like, I'm pregnant. I'm like, dude, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like, my mom doesn't even fucking like me. She finds this out. I'm being kicked out. I'm homeless. Like, I think at that time I just got my own car. It was a beat up Volvo S60, and yes, it was beat the fuck up, but like, I'm like, I just got my car. Like, I just stopped, like, I just developed a little bit, like a little ounce of independence away from my mom. Because like I said, my whole, everything was tied to her. So she got to use that against me. So the fact that I just got my own vehicle, I was just so, that was like a little mini accomplishment, even though it was beat up and shit like that. I was the first out of my brother and sister to like finally start getting her shit together. I got my first own car and shit like that. But I'm like, dude, I just got my car. Like, how the fuck am I going to raise a child? Like, what the fuck? I remember the first thing I said was, I am going to have an abortion. Like, there's no way that I could like keep this, because one, like at that time, growing up, I always had that mindset of like, I will never be a mom. Like, after what my mom has done to me and made me experience my whole life and how much that's fucked me up, I was like, I can't be a mom. I was like, I don't even have motherly instincts. Like, I feel like I see so much of myself in my mom where I'm like, you shouldn't have ever been a mom. Like, you should have not been, you know? So I'm like, I don't want to traumatize, like, something that's a part of me, you know? And it was literally an inside joke, like with everyone in my class in high school. I was like, I was literally voted like least likely to ever be a mom. So like, I was just like, I want an abortion because first of all, I can't afford having a child right now in my life. But then two, it's like, I don't want to be a mom, you know? So a part of me was like, well, this is going to be easy peasy. Like, you know, I just get an abortion and I shouldn't give a fuck. Like, it should really just be that. So that's when I go to make sure, like literally go visit my doctor once again, because I got a lot of blood work done. Like, I went to like LabCorp or some shit, but like I finally like made an appointment with her to actually see her and to like really talk about my options and basically all of that. So she was just asking me, she's like, what did you want to do? And I was like, I'm gonna go get abortion. She's like, okay. She's like, you said the word think, like think this through, like you need to say I'm going to, not think, you know. And I'm like, yeah. Like at the time I was like, I'm gonna have an abortion, like why would I want this, you know? And then she's like, okay, well, it's gonna get confusing from here on out, because of the fact that like she said a lot of medical shit. So anyone who's gone through the same thing, you can comment down below and explain maybe in detail what she was basically saying. But there's like specific levels you need to have when you're pregnant. I forgot what she said. Maybe I'll Google it and insert it on the screen if I have time. If not, maybe anyone out there will know what I'm talking about, especially if you were pregnant before. So there's specific levels you need to be in order to like be pregnant, but my levels kept dropping. So she's like, if your levels keep dropping, then you're gonna be experiencing a miscarriage, which would probably explain why you're bleeding so much. She's like, but if your levels keep going up, then you're obviously pregnant and you're going through with the pregnancy, because it's still very early on. I believe it was like 4 weeks at this time that I was like pregnant. And she's like, it's still very early on, but I think 4 weeks or 9 weeks. I don't remember. This was literally years ago. Like, I'm trying to remember. But I remember her specifically saying, like, if your levels drop, then you're going through miscarriage. If your levels go up, that's very concerning on why you're bleeding as much as you are. And we should really be concerned if you are trying to keep this pregnancy. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So that's when that was that. She told me that she wanted to do another set of blood work 2 weeks later to see if my levels drop. And if they drop, then I had a miscarriage. So that's that. So 2 weeks later, I went to go get more blood work done, and that's when she said that my levels were dropping and that I was experiencing a miscarriage, which was basically a chemical pregnancy is what I experienced. And I remember before she even told me that, like before I even got that other set of blood work done to confirm if the levels were going lower or higher, I remember around that time me and my ex were just having so much conversation about this, because I remember at first he was like distraught. He's like, what do you want to do? He's like, I want to support whatever you want to do. Like, I don't want to make you have an abortion if you want the child or whatever. Like, what do you want to do? And I told him I didn't want it. And that was like literally the first time I seen him cry, and like the first time he seen me cry. Like, it was like a crazy like situation to be a part of. And I remember there was one night I was like, fuck, I hope I don't start crying. I remember there was one night where I was laying in bed and we were just like, you know, snuggling, and like I think he thought that I was asleep, but I wasn't. And he was just like rubbing my belly. And then like I don't know if he was talking, like I don't remember, but I just remember that moment in particular when he was rubbing my belly, and it just had me thinking of like, what if I want this child? Like, I don't know. Like, it was like, I remember that moment when I started having those weird feelings, but then I'm like, okay, Ali, pipe down. Like, we're not ready in any way, shape, or form. And that's when the more and more I started really thinking about it and talking about it with my sister, I was just like, why the fuck do I want this? Like, why am I, like, if this is going, like, my levels are going higher and I'm pregnant, why do I want it? Like, why am I actually now starting to get concerned that I'm bleeding as much as I am? Because beforehand, I didn't give a fuck. But in the beginning, I was like, shit, if I have a miscarriage, this is like the best. Like, I will never forget, me and my sister were talking about this. She's like, that would be the best case scenario because you don't want it. But if you do want it, that's shitty. So I started really thinking about it. I'm like, why am I like wanting it? Like, why am I envisioning being a mother? I've never in my entire life ever envisioned myself being a mother. But now it's all that I can think about. And then as part of me is like, I'm even afraid to tell him that I want it. Because we literally had an in-depth conversation about how we didn't want it. So I'm like, what the fuck? So that's when got the other set of blood work done, and then that's when she told me that my levels were dropping and that I experienced a chemical pregnancy and I was having a miscarriage. I remember him like having so much relief. He felt so much relief. I literally went to a different doctor and got blood work done. Like, I wanted like specific, like several like opinions and shit like that, and it was confirmed that like I was experiencing a miscarriage and it was a chemical pregnancy. I remember like my sister and my ex-boyfriend my ex-boyfriend and then my best friend at the time knew, and then everyone was like, this is like the best case scenario for you, Allie. Like, you should be happy. You didn't have to go through that like painful experience of having an abortion and like the shame of it, like going through that building and having all these fucking people standing out there with signs. Like, you didn't have to go through that. Like, this is the best case scenario for you. Like, you did not have to go through that. And yet I was like slowly starting to like lose it mentally, because I didn't even know how to tell anyone that I'm fucking like distraught. Like, distraught is such an understatement of how I was feeling. And I would never forget, that's when I just was like, a part of me was like, you know what if I don't tell anyone and I just like get over it, like I can just like suffer in silence, basically. Like, I don't want anyone to know how I'm feeling, because I don't want my ex to feel like, I don't want him to it was just so crazy how he used to process things back then, where I was like, I don't want him to feel like the pain that I'm feeling or like carry that on. So I just stayed silent. And then that same month he cheated on me. He went to like H2OI, which is like this whole car meet bullshit thing, and he was gone for like the weekend. And then for 4 days since he came back, and we were acting completely normal, we were all lovey-dovey, because I was like so sad that he like left, because I couldn't go because my mother was so strict. She would have never let me gone, because had I had that ability, he said he would love to have me come with him, but I didn't. And he cheated on me. He told me 4 days later, after he came back. Like, sat on my, like, I said sat on my, like, whoa, let me, like, fucking rephrase myself. He sat in front of my face. We literally were hooking up, like, everything. And it's not like I would have ever been able to have even, like, tell that he cheated on me. He didn't, like, look guilty at all. But 4 days later, calls me and says, babe, like, like, it's around the time you should be clocking into work. He's like, I need to talk to you. Like, it's very important. I'm outside right now, your house. And I'm like, what the fuck? Is everything okay? You sound like sick or something. Like, you sound like you're not okay. He's like, just come outside. Hysterically crying, saying he cheated on me. He fucked up. And I'm like, no one knows that I'm grieving what could have been in regards to my miscarriage. And now I have to grieve the fact that, like, you cheated on me. And I've never talked about this, I don't think, at all to anybody. Like, not even to my therapist. That's how y'all know I fuck with y'all, for me to even get this vulnerable. And hopefully I don't cry saying this. But it's like, I will never forget that, like, that time, it was so crazy, the timing that he cheated on me. And it was just so crazy, the timing of me having a miscarriage. Because in that timing within itself, my relationship with my mom got so bad that I was having panic attacks every day. We went through a physical fight. I don't think I've ever talked about that publicly. And that's the main reason why I moved out at 19. But we got into a physical fight because she was like just so like I said, it's just so crazy. Like, she was disrespecting my ex-boyfriend to the fullest capacity, and it's just the way that I was loyal. Crazy. Like, looking back in hindsight, I was like, I was so loyal, and I'm like, don't disrespect my partner. Like, when it comes to the people I love, I become a lion. So I'm like, I become a lion when it comes to the people that I love, and I want to protect them. So when she was disrespecting my partner, I'm like, it's almost like you're disrespecting me, and then, bitch, we have a problem. So she put her hands on me, and then we got into a physical fight. A really, really bad fight. Like, I literally could have like ruined my whole life. It was a really bad fight. And then, like, I remember from that moment forward, I was just like dead. Like, there was like, you could literally look through my eyes and there was just no like life to it. Like every single day from that moment forward, I literally was just like, when I woke up, I was like, why? Like, why did I wake up? Like, it's like, it was just like awful. And then, like, hopefully I don't cry saying this, but it's like, I remember at that time thinking, like, my own mother doesn't even love me. Like, she literally is tormenting me. Like, how do you torment, like, a child? Like, because at that point, of course, like, I'm grieving what could have been with the baby that I could have had. So I'm like, I can't even imagine, like, the love that I started having for her, and I didn't even, like, it wasn't even a full baby yet. It wasn't even, like, anything, literally, technically, scientifically yet. And yeah, I couldn't even imagine ever hurting it, ever putting it through the emotional abuse, physical abuse that she was putting me through. So I'm like, my own mother doesn't love me. I was like, my own ex-boyfriend doesn't even love me. Because you don't cheat on someone that you love. Especially, like, them just experiencing a miscarriage. And I remember thinking, like, the only thing that would have loved me was that baby. Which is, like, really fucked up. But I remember thinking that would have been the only thing that would have loved me. And I lost it. And I remember at that time thinking, like, what's the fucking point of being alive? What's the fucking point of being alive if nobody even loves me? Like, what's the fucking point? My own mother doesn't love me. My dad is emotionally unavailable. He doesn't give a fuck. Like, he just was never there emotionally. And then, like, at that time, of course, that's a whole nother story within itself. But I was like, nobody loves me. So what's the fucking point of being alive? Like, what is the reason? And I remember my dreams. It was always been the thing that kept me alive. But a part of me is like, if nobody loves me, then what's the fucking, like, that? It was so sad that all I wanted was to be loved. That's all I, like, prayed about. I'm like, I'm with someone who doesn't, I don't even feel loved by. I don't even feel loved by my mother. I don't feel loved by anybody. Everyone could literally come up to me and say, Ali, I love you and I want you to be alive. And I wouldn't have believed it. So I'm like, what's the fucking point? Like, truly. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I just don't want to be alive. And that was, like, the one time in my life where I felt so suicidal, where I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. I'll never forget when I started writing, like, letters in my phone, like, in my notes to just everyone that I love. And I'm like, I'm just so sorry. Like, please forgive me for what I'm going to do, but I just don't want to be here anymore. Like, I just don't. Like, my mom, like, she had, like, you could scroll on the notes for the letter that I made for her. I was like, I fucking hate you. I hope that every single moment you breathe on this earth that you feel like shit. I hope everyone torments you to the point of you being the reason why I die. Like, it was really gnarly. Like, what I wrote, my letter towards her, my sister. I was like, I love you. And even though I know that you love me, I just don't feel like worthy of being loved. I don't feel like, it's like, I don't feel worthy of being loved. I don't even feel like I deserve your love. I don't feel like I deserve anything. I just want to be dead, you know? So I remember thinking, like, writing her, when it was just like, fuck, sorry. I remember, like, thinking, like, when I wrote my letter to my sister, I'm like, please, like, forgive me for what I'm going to do. I was like, please forgive me. Please do not hold it, like, again, like, please don't hold it, like, against yourself for what I'm going to do. I was like, it's not your fault. Like, I know you love me. I just don't feel, like, worthy of anyone's love right now, you know? So there was that. I wrote one to my brother saying, I love you. And I'm like, I wish we could have been closer. Like, I know we had our differences and shit like that. But, like, there was that. And then my dad, like, I just told him how I felt in a sense where I felt like he wasn't available and I wish he loved me. Because maybe he could have saved me a little bit more. Like, I don't know. Fuck. And yeah, and obviously I'm still alive to tell the tale, so I didn't go through with ending my life or whatever. Like, I remember just, like, one day, like, I was like, it's crazy how I ended up moving in with my ex after that. You would think, like, why the fuck would you take him back for him putting you through that? But I was just like I said, I was in this point in my life where I just wanted to be loved. Like, anything, a hobo could have loved me. Like, I could have been a hobo and begged for him to love me. Like, that's how much I wanted to be loved at that time. I'm like, I'm begging anyone to love me, because the one thing that could have loved me is gone. And I don't feel loved by anybody. I don't feel loved by my mom. I don't even feel loved by my partner. So any bit of crumbs I would take. And then I moved in with him, and it's fucking sad to say, but he did save my life. He literally, I remember I quit my job. I was working at the salon at that time. And I remember, like, I quit and then I was unemployed. And I literally for 2 months just stayed indoors. Like I was having panic attacks every day. My social anxiety was to the point where I couldn't even go to a drive-through. I couldn't even like answer a phone call. Like my anxiety was so bad. It was so bad. It was like I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. And I just felt like I died. Like I truly will say that like me experiencing that miscarriage, I felt like that little like I died along with that like potential life. Like I really do feel like a part of me died, and it was just like so fucked. And yeah. Fuck, sorry. Like I'm not trying to edit this at all so it could be as raw as possible. But yeah. And then I remember my ex, he literally any single moment he had, whether it was his break time or whatever, whenever he just had a moment to just be able to call me, he would be like, "Hey babe, just checking in on you. Did you eat today?" In my head, I'm like, I'm literally like overdrafted. Like I'm so poor right now. It's not even funny. I can't even like if I were, it's either like paying my bills or getting like food or ramen, and I couldn't like. I'd rather starve than like make sure my bills are paid. So I would be like, no, or sometimes I would lie and say I did, and he'll be like, well, I'm gonna make sure you get food. I'm gonna go like if you like want to like take my credit card and just order yourself some like Uber Eats, or you want to drive, I'll pay for your gas. Like, yeah, and I guess like someone could think like he's so fucked up that he doesn't like deserve the praise that I'm about to give him, but at the same time, it was just those small kinds, the small acts of kindness. It's what saved my life. And as much as like I said, that's not even the icing on the cake for what he's put me through and what led to our nasty breakup. But I would just say that that saved my life. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him giving me those small acts of kindness. And maybe one could be thinking that like this is literally like the bars in hell. I agree. But yeah, I literally just remember just remember feeling like, oh my God, I actually feel loved. And that saved me. Like that literally, like that's all I wanted. I begged for it though, which was sad. But I was just like, I just want to feel loved. Like literally give me anything. Like the smallest amount of crumbs I'll take, but I just want to feel loved. And yeah. And like I eventually licked my wounds, and of course a pandemic happened, so we were on shutdown, and I think that's what really saved my life, because when he was on shutdown with me, he was just like my security blanket until of course things started hitting the fan. But like I just felt like everyone would be on lockdown, and me having more time to spend with my, with my sister, and me and my mom eventually ended up talking things out, like having a full-on cry session, talking everything out, because I went no contact with her when I moved out. So when I moved out, we didn't talk for like 6 months until the pandemic happened. And then like she has her own cleaning company, and I was just like, well, I fucking need a job. The bitch who fucking worked at the salon, I want to expose that bitch so bad, but she's the reason why I couldn't collect unemployment. So I was like, fuck, I'm literally in debt, like thousands of dollars in debt. I'm like, I just need a job, or just any like little small hustle, like side hustle. So I was like, I hit up my mom, because she was constantly trying to reach out to me, but I was ignoring her. But I'm like, you know what, I'll use her, like she's used to me, whatever. So I was like, hey, can I work for you? And then she said, yeah, what's going on? We had a full-blown cry session. She like, asked for forgiveness and like apologized. I wasn't ready to accept her apology for years. Literally, it took until my ex and me went through the most catastrophic breakup ever, and then my mom like coming to my rescue and seeing me in the state that I was in, is when I decided to actually forgive her. Because for years we were talking, but I still hated her because I just could not forgive her, because like I said, going through that miscarriage, I'm like, I had so much love for something that didn't even form into a baby. Like I would have done anything in the world to have saved it, protected it. I blamed myself for it, like not going through a pregnancy. I'm like, I couldn't have even protected it or saved it, because I was being so responsible, popping so many plan Bs. I blamed myself to the fullest capacity. But shit happens. But I'm like, that's why I had so much resentment towards her, because I'm like, I wanted to do everything in the world to protect that potential thing. Like that wasn't even a baby yet, and yet you couldn't do that for me. I went through so much therapy to obviously understand, like, we are doing the best that we could. And I know she tried to have loved me. She wasn't even capable of it. Now I feel so loved by my mom. She's literally like one of my best friends now. Like I love her. Like whenever I'm in distress, she always texts me every Monday saying, hey, I hope you have a good week. She'll literally, whenever I visit, like now that I'm independent, obviously I don't live with my ex anymore, I don't live with my sister, I got my own little whatever. She'll pack me food. Like, we have such a good, amazing relationship now. It's fucked up, something really shitty brought us together, but it did. But yeah, that is the story of my miscarriage. And that was the hardest thing that I've ever went through. I went through my breakup was the second most hardest thing I ever went through. Because that was just straight embarrassment, humiliation. The amount of loyalty I had towards that person for me to experience what I experienced was horrible, horrific. But this nearly killed me. Like, I actually wrote out letters to everyone that I love, my best friend, everyone that I loved, because I was so ready to just like leave, But yeah, I don't know how to end this off. Like, I really don't. But I just hope you guys know that I'm like in such an amazing place now, and I'm so happy that I didn't like end my life, because if I did, I wouldn't have met the people that I've met now. Reunited with my best friend from middle school. She's like one of the amazing like people that I love with every bone in my body. I wouldn't have been able to continue to follow my dreams and like make something of myself with all the cards that I was dealt. And I hope this episode reaches someone who needs to hear it, or is going through a dark time like that, like I've went through. Like I said, my social anxiety was so bad that I literally was like, I have a stutter naturally, but my stutter was so bad that I couldn't even form a sentence. So my social anxiety got even worse. I'm like, I don't even want to interact with people. Like, I literally for years, like for 2-3 years after that like traumatic experience, I hated like have the idea of having a job where I have to answer a phone, because my anxiety was that bad. Ironically now, it's kind of crazy because I have a job where I have to answer the phone. That's like my duty, and I'm like confident with it. I'm okay. Like, I've developed confidence. I overcame my insecurity, my demons, and I hope that could be a testament for someone out there who's going through the same thing. I'm telling you, like, I had the worst cards dealt. Well, not the worst. I've definitely met people that worse, but like, I had pretty shitty cards, and I've made something for myself. And I'm excited for the possibilities and just the futures that I have for myself. And I would have never been able to do that if I really had taken my life over this really sad situation. But yeah, that is everything for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening. I really do appreciate for the people that comment under I love anyone. Comment. You can tell me that I'm annoying as fuck and to shut the fuck up and die or whatever. Like, I love the comments that I receive on my episodes. You don't understand how much it makes me so happy. I read every single one. Like, I love you guys so much. So much. That's why I open up to you guys and literally cry in front of you guys. I don't cry in front of people. Anyone who knows me knows I don't cry in front of people. I've been friends with so many people for so many years, and they never see me cry unless it was like online or some shit, But yeah, that is everything. I love you guys so much. Once again, if you're listening to this on Spotify, make sure to give it a 5 stars rating. Make sure to help, keep the lights stay on. And if you're watching this on the podcast YouTube channel, make sure to give it a thumbs up, comment down below, and make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Because I have so many things coming up in the future for this podcast. So many little sessions, or just so much. You guys, I love this podcast. It's my baby, and I hope you guys can feel my passion for this podcast and what I hope for it to be one day. So I love you guys so much. For like the third time, I'm always gonna tell you guys I love you guys, because I hope you guys can feel how much I love you guys. Okay. But I can't wait to see you guys in the next episode. Bye bye.